Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Fundraising Business Talk. I'm Patrick Seibert, founder and lead auctioneer here at G Events LLC, based in Beaverton, Oregon. And it's so excited to have you join us today. Want to make sure you feel comfortable and reach out and put a note in the comments. Tell us where you're from, and feel free to ask any questions. We'd love to be able to answer them as we go through the program today. And let's not waste any time. I am so excited today to have my dear friend join us from her company at Trefan Events. And I would love to show you a little quick video to introduce you to Trefan Events. Here we go.
Which is a boutique event planning and production agency that will come alongside you, offering personalized event planning and technical support, strategic event design, production and technology management, and flawless execution for live, virtual, and hybrid events. The team at Trefan Events is passionate about planning and producing event experiences that get people involved with true moments of interaction, engagement, and co-creation, while offering white glove treatment throughout the entire planning process, enabling you to reach your event goals with the use of creativity, production tools, and event technology. To find out how Trefan Events can plan and produce your event become memorable, go to trefanevents.com.
Well, that in just a nutshell doesn't do her justice, because Anka is not only the creator, the founder, and CEO of Trefan Events, but she is the planner and event producer extraordinaire. And I hope that you will bring yourself to a virtual applause for my good friend. Please welcome Anka Trefan.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Let me just tell you how much I was like dancing in the back.
I was watching you backstage. Trust me, I was thinking, wow, who knew I was going to get to watch Anka dance all at the same
This
time.
is where I don't do anything, guys. So I just get to enjoy myself and hopefully put two things, two words together that make sense. But it was funny to see the videos, our intros, because I was kind of like, breaking into some moves on your tune, Patrick.
Yeah.
It's like, right?
Yeah.
And then on mine, I was like,
the class of music.
Totally. Like, this is our personalities coming through,
Isn't it? Yeah, I love in mine now. It goes, woohoo! That's like my favorite part of the whole deal.
I was like definitely feeling it. I'm like,
yeah,
this is awesome. And then mine comes in, I'm like, this is the European in me with all the trends and all the techno, right?
We're in the disco. I love it. Hey, Anka, thank you so much. I mean, you and I have had an opportunity to work together for years, going back to events at Montgomery Park in Portland and the museum and all sorts of different locations. But really in the last year, you and I have almost, it seems like we talk almost daily, right? As we have moved into this new environment. And you've taught me so much, and it's been such a great journey. I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
You totally flatter me there. I think my only regret, Patrick, like real regret, is when we were doing those in-person events, and you mentioned Montgomery Park, because we were doing quite a few for, I believe, Rose Festival Foundation. We didn't necessarily connect on such a personal level, because you were the auctioneer coming on stage, grabbing that microphone, and doing your thing, right? And I'm just like the producer there, like in the background somewhere, those backstage people, like who cares about that, right? But I wish I knew then how much spark and personality and fun you bring to the table with all the knowledge, because you say I taught you a lot, but really the opposite could just as well apply. And it's been amazing. I mean, if anything came out of 2020, it was just some of the relationships that we built, and being able to realize that there are some actually fantastic people that you might have worked with in a different capacity, but this quarantine brought out so much more, So I am super excited to be here, and if I can contribute to your amazing fundraising business talk, because let me tell you, not a lot of auctioneers and benefit auctioneers and specialists do what you do. So hats off, hats down to you, because you really want to share all the wealth and the knowledge that you have with everyone that's basically, there to listen. And I think people should definitely take notes because there's so much to know and learn from you. So I'm the first one to take some notes today. So let's do
it. Well, you're so kind. And it's funny, I think whether it's the mainstream media or the people we talk to, people complain about 2020. And I look back and I go, wow, maybe it was a knot in the rope of life, right? That we grab a hold of and pass over. But as I reflect on it, I think about all the incredible new relationships that I created, the new skills that I learned. I'm working on an event here next month. It will be the first event that I've done twice virtually, right? Same client. And
so it's kind of round. Is it like a year round? Wow, that's amazing.
The first one we did for Portland, Utah.
It's the first one. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was the first one, March 11th, and 2 days before Governor Brown shut down the state. And it was with the AV department, our good friends over at the AV department. And when they called me 2 nights before to tell me that we were going to live stream, I say it all the time, I couldn't spell live stream, right? and now I sit in front of box lights and multiple screens and decided this year that to your point that I was going to do a live stream show every week. And part of the reason I do this is because I want to learn what it's like to do this. And I think there's so much value in it. And I think it really expands what we can do for our clients. But you're right. We, in the past, when you were, spinning dials in the back of the room and making sure my volume was right, and me, from the stage saying, turn it down, turn it up, whatever, we didn't get that opportunity to really help our clients the way we do now. I think that, for organizations that are moving into this virtual world, that having a team of trusted advisors, really, our role is so much bigger than it used to be. And I know for me, I know for you, just based on what we've been doing, we're doing more for our clients than we've ever done because they really need our help. There were some auctioneers in the past that literally showed up at the event and they handed them a catalog and they sold the items and that was the end of it, right? Yeah. And that was never really my style because of my event planning background. But now our clients have never done this before, and so they need our help, and they need their trusted advisors that have done this. I mean, you've been involved in hundreds of virtual events and live stream events over your career. I don't know how many in 2020.
Who's counting?
Yeah, we quit counting, right? I mean, and I've been lucky enough to do 15, and it's it doesn't seem like a big number, but there had to be one that was first on the moon too, right? I mean,
right. But let me stop you right there really quick, Patrick, because here's what I think of you and the AV department and a few of the partners that actually we got to work together, get together beginning of March. When I think of the term pioneer, I think of people like you. I think of companies like the AV department. I think of strategy companies, auction houses, and all the people behind the scenes, event producers like myself that have pioneered something that it was nothing before. We called it something else in a different context. Live streaming, sure, we've done for some events, and sure, we've done iMagging and video recording and all of that. But taking it to a completely different level where you take this event and you don't just take it from in person and move it to a virtual format, but you adapt it and you pivot it to a virtual format. That is the work of a pioneer. And when I think of that, Patrick, I think of you, and I think of the AV department, and I think of a few people that have done that successfully over the last year. Now that we're coming literally on the year mark, right, of this new experience, just like you said, landing on the moon might as well in events, right?
Right. No, it's totally that's the case, and it's been a lot of fun. And today, part of the reason for doing this live stream every week is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but things appear to be changing every day, right? I mean, I'm really proud of how we all came together as vendors and a community of benefit auctioneers and pioneered this, as you say. At the same time, there's constantly opportunities to improve and constantly opportunities for us to share, something that I used at an event in October I didn't even know how to do for the event that was back in April, right? And so hadn't even thought about it. And so I felt like this was a great vehicle for us to be able to share these concepts and the latest trends and the best practices that are coming into the business. And so that's really the concept of the show today. And what I want to focus on for us today is the use of pre-recorded video in these virtual fundraising events, right? I think that there is, as you and I both know, we can eliminate or minimize our risk by using pre-recorded video as much as possible, right? We get the product that we want in that people say what we want them to say. We don't have to worry about somebody hijacking the mic and going on and rambling on and on and on.
That never happened before.
Never happened in a live event, right? I mean, there's so many things. I'm going to digress, right? No surprise. I can't tell you how many things there are about this new environment that have created this list in my head of things I don't miss from the gathering event. Nobody's gotten their cold food. Nobody stood in line at the bar. Nobody's sitting at the wrong table. Nobody has an empty table. There's nobody showed up without a reservation. I mean, all the things for our organizers that we used to be concerned about, was those were all gone in this virtual environment. But as we've learned the power of the pre-recorded video, I think to myself, and I mean, especially for you doing what you've done in your career, we would have never brought this many people to the microphone in a gathering event, right?
Yep.
And yet now, because in my world, I think of it as bid calling when I'm reading off bid cards in a special appeal or a paddle raise, or if I'm taking bids, right? Those are difficult to do live in a virtual event. I think that you're totally rolling the dice that people bid, that they bid correctly, that we can talk about the latency from when I say something in the studio or wherever I'm located to when it reaches someone on their couch. I'm not concerned about that. You guys on the technical side have got that down to a science. I'm more sensitive to how long it takes the other person to respond, right? And then for it to come back to where I can see it, right? So we replace those elements of the virtual event with pre-recorded video. And it allows us to do so much more for the organization, quite honestly, for our nonprofit organization, to be able to showcase their mission, showcase their volunteers, showcase their beneficiaries, and also to showcase even other donors, right, that are motivated and committed to the cause. So what I wanted to chat with you today about is the different, ways to do these pre-recorded videos. I mean, they could be anything, virtually everything that does not need to be live. Okay. Yeah. I would love to see pre-recorded. That's kind of my hope, right? Because we can time it and maximize that time. We're a lot more sensitive in the virtual event that we don't go over that 45-minute to an hour time frame. And so we're looking for our appeal message to be pre-recorded. We're looking for welcome messages, leadership messages, any testimonials that we use to replace bid calling, all pre-recorded. So you've got some advice. I mean, we've seen it all in the last year. You've got some great advice on what you're looking for when you're instructing clients how to pre-record video.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely some benefits, like you already mentioned, the fact that now you can really nail your message. If you need to have 10 takes, have 10 takes to get that nailed, as it needs to be. But there's also, the reality of time involved, because now if you're going to do something aside from the day of the event, like we were all used to get into a ballroom, a couple of hours before, if we had sound checks, that we needed to do and technical run-throughs, but that was still within that time frame of a 4-hour event, 5-hour event. Now, if we're looking at pre-recording all these elements and segments as content for the virtual event that will happen, a week from now or whatever, 2 weeks from now, and sometimes the next day. depends how much we can get that schedule, tighten up. You do have to now be aware that it takes a little bit of extra time on your end, and you need to plan for it. And with that, there's also a few considerations which we need to take in account, because before, and it's still possible to, go into a studio and get your content pre-recorded, and that's great for, some organizational videos and organizational remarks and anything that you would want to pay money to have it done professionally. However, if you have a lot of testimonials that you want to insert within your program, or have different elements that, like you mentioned, are to be pre-recorded, most of those usually are done virtually. They're like, we get into a studio like StreamYard or Zoom. My preference is always StreamYard, just because I can brand it. vMix is another option, and there's a few other options out there depending on your level of, tech savviness. But you can brand it. You can have overlays like Patrick here. He has a background slide, he has the overlays, he has the lower thirds, and you brand that to the event. But here's the thing where now we need to be aware of, right? If you're going to record this over internet, obviously you're at the mercy of your ISP provider, right? The internet provider is where you need to that's the first thing we need to check, And I have a few different things that I like to call my technical run-throughs before the event, or for pre-recording of segments for events. Call literally stands for C as in the content that I would do for the call, the audio, the lighting, the location. I want to know first, what's your broadband speed for that call? Because I call it a call, although it's a virtual recording, right? I have a place where I send people to do a full virtual check of their devices, of their internet, of their microphone, of their video, and all of these devices kind of give me some data. What am I working with on the other end, right? And then I would have a sit down, 15 minutes, really doesn't have to be longer than that, where we look at your upload speed. That's one of the most important things that you need to take in consideration. I send them to a website like fast.com, and I know the first thing you see is the download speed, and usually that's like a big number. You're like, yay, I'm great. But then I'm like, no, show me more. I want to see your upload, because that's what matters. And my goal is to see anything above 10, really 20 is truly my goal. But take, for example, this event that I'm working on for a conference coming up in March, and all my speakers are European speakers and Asian speakers. Their internet speed is completely different than what our internet speed is here. So when they come to me with a 2.2 megabytes upload speed, I go, right? And that's when I'm like, okay, so I think we're going to pre-record this content, because you coming live for a segment of about 30 minutes or so is very risky, because who's going to tell me that you're not going to be, dropping in the middle of the call? And when it comes to, audio and video, sure, audio will always pass through, but it's super important, because that's where, having crappy audio, it's not okay. It never goes. It's one of those things that, how many times have you seen, TV segments where the audio was crappy? Probably never, right? Sure, if the video is a little, pixelated and fuzzy, and we've all had bad internet days, and that's more acceptable. Although, our goal is to have crisp image and that upload speed be super high. However, we as people, we will put up with bad video, but never with bad audio, because the moment the audio gets cut off, or you only hear every other word, people tune out. It's just, they can't process that. So that's one of the main things that I work through with my speakers in a pre-recording session. Let's get your sound right. And it's tricky sometimes, because, before, if you are going to a studio, sure, you don't have to worry much about having a good microphone, having someone mixing your levels, EQing your voice, compressing it, and adding all the fluff to it, right? But if you're going to do that from home, now this whole studio, the tech is on you. And you have to embrace the fact that the burden is on you to provide a production value that, you know, otherwise you wouldn't really have to worry about. But if you're going to be a virtual speaker, or if you're going to pre-record content, or if you're going to show up anywhere, you know, live like we are right now, you've got to bring that to the table. And sometimes that means you have to up your game and embrace technology, or maybe hire someone to do it for you. Like Patrick helps a lot of nonprofits create some of those pre-recorded segments, and he's already gone through the training of, you know, having good sound and having good video and having good upload speed and lighting. We didn't even touch on lighting. You know, that's another element where I get super picky, you know, because like right now I have a source of lighting that you can see that it's coming, you know, on this side. Like, where's my finger here? Because I didn't turn on my other light. Yeah, I was kind of like trying to rush here on time, but I would like to have, you know, some equal, you know, left and right. If all you've got is like this above halo lighting, I don't think that's necessarily going to be in your advantage, you know. If I'm looking at Patrick, imagine if he had like this halo of lighting on his head right now, and it was just like, like, Holy Mary.
Well, you know, my hair's out of place today too. You know,
Totally.
I didn't get a chance to get to the barber yet. So yeah, no, yeah,
That would definitely put you in a saint category that you're like, I don't know if I want to fit in there today.
Yeah, no, it's crucial, right? And yet, you know, it's funny because you make a great point. When we started these events back in the spring, and we knew we wanted to use pre-recorded material, we were pretty open to anything, right? Because we were more social distancing. People didn't know if this format was going to help them raise money or not. You know, we've proven that it's very successful financially.
Yeah.
But they were ultra sensitive to cost, and so we got video in all sorts of formats, didn't we? Whether it's the cell phone that's vertical,
oh my goodness, yeah.
You know, somebody text you their video, that never comes across very well.
No, I mean, it will get compressed to here, and then you try to shove it back, you know, through the pipe, and you're like, where is the resolution gone?
Well, and that's, you know, and it's not difficult to do this, right? I mean, it's I think the tools are there. I mean, if I'm doing a live stream show weekly, it's pretty clear that it's not difficult. Okay, so it's something that, you know, but you're right. You can do it with professionals. You could go to the studio, but sometimes that's not necessarily the best option. And I think as producers, we're trying to make it as convenient as we can.
Absolutely.
And also make it comfortable for our clients, right?
Well, we also had, you know, right now we're not so much in a, you know, lockdown quarantine like we used to be in 2020. But for example, take some of the countries in Europe. Actually, they are in lockdown quarantine. Right. They can't leave their house. I was having a conversation just earlier today with a speaker from Greece, and her internet was, you know, crap, and she needed an adapter to connect to a wired to connect wire with a Ethernet wire connection to her router. And she's like, I can't go out. I can't order. I can't do anything because we're in lockdown. Nobody leaves their house. So in that situation, like, what are we going to do? Are we going to stop the event? No, we can still do it. But now you just have to understand how, you know, the tech becomes what is in your home studio. Call it studio or not, but unfortunately you don't really have a choice in this virtual world, so you're going to have to work with what you've got. But there's still ways to improve on the production value of what you can deliver. Like, I have a speaker that they will record locally, so we don't rely on the broadband, right, to do it over the internet, but they're going to send me all their content so I can start to fuzz it up and add all those overlays and intro slides and outro slides and all the other stuff, so we can still create this content that can be then, you know, shared in a virtual setup, a virtual event. But here's one thing that I like to say to anyone that is in this situation. If either you're a virtual speaker or a presenter, or you're going to have a testimonial for a nonprofit fundraiser, or any of, doesn't matter which category you are in, between you, your content, and your online audience is technology. And the delivery method right now is audio and video, with most of the aching parts being proper lighting and the location. Because I've also been in people's kitchens, and they're coming in live, and you have someone in the background cooking.
I did it yesterday. I was recording a testimonial for an event coming up in the first part of March, and I walked her through. We were using StreamYard, and it was just, simple, right off of her laptop, right? Mm-hmm. And she decided she didn't like her background was a bookshelf or something she didn't necessarily care for, and so she said, "Hey, can we move where I'm doing this?" I said, "Sure." She picked up her laptop. She moved to another room. Well, now I could hear the cars driving by, right? And so I was like, whoa, what's that noise? I couldn't figure it out. Now, an expert like you would have said, that's cars. I was like, where'd that noise come from? She couldn't hear it, but I could hear it coming through the audio, right? So, it's incredibly challenging. And that's where, I think you and I have talked a bunch of times. That's why we're huge fans of StreamYard. And some of that, some of that internet connection is somewhat positive. You minimize some of that concern with using StreamYard because it's a web-based software, right? So really, we can even use a cell phone. Sometimes, I guess I'm asking you a technical question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's sometimes a cell phone connected with 5G better than having an internet service that's got a 5 megabyte upload speed.
Yeah, absolutely. If what you've got around to work with is 2.2 megabytes upload speed, then most likely you're going to have, and again, depends on your location, right? Like, we are blessed where we are to have, 5G and some amazing, although, I'm still praying for fiber. I'm not sure about your neighborhood, but mine did not get yet fiber, right? But that's really what I'm looking for in 2021, to get one of those fiber lines straight to my house. But in a situation where your wireless provides you more upload speed than what your broadband could, then sure, do that instead. Again, going back to something that was mentioned just a little bit earlier, the framing does matter, though. Even you're gonna do that on a cell phone, right? Like, I have my cell phone right here. I see a lot of videos. We're so used to the Instagram story life, right? Where everything happens like this, right? Where's my camera? Yep, everything happens like this. Sometimes when I actually create content, I have to do it different two ways. One is landscape mode and one is portrait mode, because what I do in landscape mode, it doesn't look good in stories, and what I want to share in stories, it just gets cut off in my profile when I want to post it or whatever. But if you're going to go in a 16:9 format where you go live, and this is for an event that is going to be broadcasted, certainly you want to go landscape, right? So put your phone, if you're going to use your phone. I've actually received content recorded on the phone, and obviously don't record it with your camera here that's facing you. Turn it around, because you're always going to get more megabytes out of those cameras. And now some of the iPhones, I think the last one, iPhone 12, has some amazing cameras, So I've seen content recorded with a cell phone. Sure, we kind of snark and like, but it wasn't bad. It was actually decent content, sometimes even better than what you get over with a laptop camera if we're going to record over, with your laptop. I think the tricky part with something like that is definitely the sound, because now you're turning the phone away from you. You're putting it on a stick so you don't get like your face right there. And then the farther away it moves from you, the farther the microphone is, from you as well. So you get a little bit of a, less than ideal sound quality, but the video would be like totally HD and high quality. Where how you deliver it is also important. If you're going to share that with me via email, it's going to get compressed to the point where I'm like, it's totally unusable. How about you Dropbox it, Drive, send it to me, or whatever, Box, how many places you could actually transfer it, right? Yeah. But yeah, I would certainly, advise with framing, super important. How, like, even like right now we're looking, both of us, we're framed pretty well, both of us I mean, I could move a little bit here, but I'm trying to get close to my microphone. You as well. And are we like here, like, where's my head in that framing? It's important to see, like, I was actually talking to someone that I'm working with right now, and she sent me a bunch of videos that she took at home over the weekend, and the whole framing is like her head like this, and it was so creepy. Like, I'm like, I don't want to say that it was creepy, but it was kind of creepy. I'm like, oh, it's like too close.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that, because I'm looking at this, and it's been bothering me the whole time we've been on the air, is that I got to reverse this monitor, right? Because I'm usually on this side in StreamYard because I'm the host, and it looks like I'm looking away from you, but I'm watching you, and that's why it looks like I'm looking away, right? So I need to, I'm not perfect at this by any stretch. I never will be, but I want to go back to what you're saying, right? Because one of the things that is why I'm such a huge fan of StreamYard is that it creates that virtual studio for you as the producer to be there and actually see what the person's going to send you, versus how many times have we had that debate when somebody sent in video to us that they shot with their phone, they did with their computer, whatever they did, and you really struggle because you would like them to do it again. You would like to send it back and say, hey, I don't mean to offend you, but could you smile and do this again, right? Could you actually show some emotion?
I've actually kind of had to do that. And actually, at that point, I offered, I'm like, how about I do it with you? And that way, I can pinpoint some of the things so that we don't have to keep doing this, where I keep asking you for a better video and you keep sending me a crappy video. And then we just do this dance where I'm like, at this point, I'm out of time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think we also have to be respectful. You're dealing with a lot of, how would I say this, important people, VIP types, right? And so, the CEO is sending you a message that he shot in his office with his, or her admin, shot it on their cell phone. And it's awful. And we really are challenged because we know either we tell them now and they get mad at us, or they see it for themselves on the actual show. Yeah. And they go, why'd you let me put that on the air?
Exactly, because it goes back to not what I care about and how OCD I can get. It goes back to the image that you're going to project, to an online audience that is going to judge you as the presenter based on what they see. So why would I want to put you in that position where, it could impact your brand, it could impact whatever you're saying, the messaging, where this could be fixed in pre-event, instead of just letting you, allowing that to happen without giving that a second consideration and making sure that my goal is for you to look in your best lighting possible. And I don't just mean lighting as in the physical light, but in the way you're going to present yourself for this online audience that they might not know you, but they will make an impression on you based on what they see. Like the same way people are looking at us right now and be like, I don't like her hair. Well, gonna have to put up with it because this is the best I've got.
I hear it all the time. They don't like my hair. Yeah. No, you're right on, Anka, as always. And I think it's just so much, it's so much more efficient for us to help folks get through this. And to your point, I think when we're dealing with that CEO, when we're dealing with someone who is used to speaking at gathering events, speaks publicly a lot of times, we have an expectation, right? I would say in the benefit auction business, as we have moved to virtual and as we have tried to increase the number of pre-recorded videos, it's not really different than what I used to say to speakers at a gathering event. They would be nervous, right? They're that parent. They're that person who doesn't do a lot of public speaking. And I would tell them, hey, it's okay. Nobody expects you to be a professional public speaker. They expect me, because I'm getting paid tonight, to not stumble, to not, say all the time, right? They want us to be right on, but we don't expect it from a lot of these small re-recorded videos that we're using in the benefit business. And so
absolutely.
To Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose that authenticity either, right? Like you don't want to make it so cut off professional that people, you can see how it comes off forced in a way, because that's not what they do. It's like, I rather see you and your personality coming through, and I'll fix you up in post.
Yeah. Well,
as long as I get some good video, some good audio, and the lighting is not like downright like awful, you know.
Right. Well, and you and I've had this conversation. You do a podcast and you record them and then you post them, right? And it's a fabulous. Give me the name again, because
Events Demystified.
Yeah, Events Demystified. It's a fabulous podcast. I listen to it regularly. I just have it as a button on my phone, so that's why I don't remember the exact name.
I still have to get you on there like properly, because I think I've actually at one point I've stitched together an episode of us having a conversation just from the many conversations we've had. It was enough content to create an episode.
Well, hey, I've been accused of being an oxygen thief before, but hey, while we're thinking of it, I wanted a little shout out to our good friend.
Oh,
Tim.
yes, there you go.
Tim's a longtime auctioneer specializing in real estate with the Stewart Realty Group, and does a lot of benefits. Auctions run very deep in his house. In fact, Jill Marie Wiles, who's a past IAC champion auctioneer, is his wife, and Jill Marie works with me quite a bit, been a great mentor to me. So Tim, hey, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. But
thank you for joining us. It's an honor, Tim.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, and I think as we do these pre-recorded videos, one of the things that I've been intrigued by is that I originally had a purpose for it, but as I've learned the live streaming, and my mind has gone crazy with ideas, right? And one of them is that we now do a live stream pre-show for our events, a kickoff when we start the online bidding. I'm doing a taping tonight. I'm going to use the Teams Together mode, okay? But I'm going to record it of a board of directors at a school, and they're going to say thank you to all the viewers, and we're going to take that and we'll run it in their show.
That's awesome.
You know, I'm doing a deal where a whole classroom of kids, we're going to have a little montage of the classrooms using that together mode where they all sit looks like they're all sitting in a theater, right? But they're all going to be at their homes.
Yeah.
And they're all going to get to say, hey, thanks for tuning in and supporting us, you know, at our school.
I mean, the possibilities are endless, like you're saying.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's phenomenal stuff. Give me a sense. I mean, you know, how do you balance doing this professionally versus doing it with a cell phone and doing it yourself? And you know, what do you have any advice for folks, or give them I mean, it all comes, I look at it personally and I say, you know, it may cost a little bit more, but is it reducing the risk, right? Are we going to get a product that is representative of our organization and is going to help us raise more money, right? If we've got a video from someone that's breaking up, the audio is terrible, they got a distracting background, you can hear the sirens and the police and the dogs barking or whatever, you know, it's probably going to take away from us raising money for that organization.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I don't think that they necessarily, I don't think it's an automatic that you need to go to a studio and pay an hourly rate to have real pros work on this for you.
I think you can certainly build some, I would say, you know, boundaries around, you know, how much do you want to spend on this as an organization? Sure, there's nonprofit organizations out there that have lots of money and they can spend it on entertainment, they can spend it on packages, on VIPs, and why not, right? I would expect them to have high produced content, because if it's a national, global, who knows, you know, nonprofit, like if this was someone like, you know, I don't know, throw a good big name out there that would be at a global level.
I'm probably not, because we're going to talk about how they
then let's not. Then most likely the expectation of what that content is going to look like is much higher than if this was a local nonprofit. Honestly, they're probably struggling trying to get as much return on investment on this virtual event as they can, right? So obviously, sure, you're not going to throw a bunch of crappy content at it just because you don't have the budget for it, but maybe you're going to look at different options and different opportunities where you could still generate some content that has a higher production value than your, cell phone, I don't know, video in portrait mode or whatever. But I think the guidance that you get and the information that you have when you make those decisions is just as important, because sometimes, if you don't know what you don't know. That's It's simple, right? But once you know, then you can strive to do a little bit better, right? I mean, that would be the human nature for all of us. I mean, if you just don't want to, then there's nothing I can do for you. So going back to that, the guidelines of how you're going to make that decision, I would go back to something like, okay, if this is an organizational video that you could repurpose to use as marketing material, then pay an extra buck and go and do it well in a studio that you're going to, reuse again and again. If this is a one testimonial, a one-off for someone coming on camera to, talk about your organization or any of that nature, anything that has to highlight something, highlight the package, and you want to pre-record that, having it done maybe in a situation like this where it's done by a producer, it's probably sent in and the quality is good, then sure, that would be a good differentiator as where am I going to spend my money and what kind of a return on investment do I get for that content. If this is a sponsor, I would sponsor, if they want, again, going back to their branding, going back to the light they put themselves out there, I would spend some extra money on creating some content that is professionally done so that you can reuse that and you can be sure that it's not going to damage your brand. So those are things that I would personally take in consideration if I were to make that decision. A lot of the speakers that I get to work with, virtual speakers that I get to work with, it's that one presentation that they need to get across, and it goes back to their credibility then. Do you want it to be, coming across as an expert, yet your presentation is falling apart? Or do you want to be perceived as someone that knows what they're talking about, but also the presentation is like the clothes you wear? You go into a meeting and you're raggy, dressed up, who knows, you just came from the gym. You're not taken as seriously as if you just dress up like you mean it, right? I'm Romanian, so for us, dressing up is important. That is the first thing people see, and the shoes.
Yeah, the shoes. Now, you tell me how many times you've shown your shoes, or
you judge people by their shoes.
I tell people all the time, I don't think I put on long breeches since since quarantine started. I mean, since this whole deal started. I get so frustrated if I got to put on jeans anymore. I wear shorts every day. I'm home, right?
I don't know. I don't want to know what's happening.
Yeah, no. That's the best part of this deal. I love. I mean, you showed that video earlier. There's a picture of me, and I'm going, oh gosh, I'm standing up. That's awesome. People think I'm 6'4" when I'm sitting down here, not 5'4". It's
like my 5'2" doesn't matter anymore. I could be 6. 6 foot tall.
Yeah. And I guess for me, I love your feedback. And I think that I look at it as an investment, right? I look at every expense that we use in an event, and in many ways in the benefit auction business, this has changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Today we can look at it and we can say, is this an investment that's going to give us a return? Mm-hmm. Now, I think that you could have done that possibly in the gathering event, but there were some things that, whether we served filet mignon or we served, a chicken, which, it was $10 more, $12 more. I really struggle with trying to identify whether, that helped you or not. I say now, and people say this all the time, well, the virtual events cost less to produce. And I say, well, yeah, but at the same time,
they do cost less, but they don't cost nothing either.
Yeah, they're not free, and at the same time, one of the other things you have to keep in track of is that you don't have the ticket revenue, right? For the most part, kind of what we've seen so far is we're seeing some evolution that people are starting to charge, but as an auctioneer, I'm kind of adamantly opposed to it because I think that, you know, why wouldn't we give everybody the opportunity to support and give us money, right?
Because you want to maintain the reach, like make it accessible for everyone to join and then contribute, because they don't have that mental stop that, well, I already paid my dues in the fact that I paid $200 to join this virtual event, you know?
Well, and I think all the time, and I used to say this about gathering events, I believe that most people who attend gathering events for fundraisers, in their mind, every dime that they spend to attend that event, they think of as a donation to the nonprofit.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, that mental block, that in your mind, you're thinking, I've already donated enough by the fact that I paid a ticket price. Although some of the events here, when they, you know, they do have a ticket price, maybe a tier price, or why not, it's because you're going to send, you know, a meal or wine or whatever. And I know you're totally against, you know, the party in a box.
I'm not totally against it.
There's a place for it, you know?
Yeah, there's a place for it. And you know, I had Michelle Fritz on last week from Stoller Wine Group. And Michelle has done a great program. Stoller has been incredible in embracing this new environment and reaching out to nonprofits. So one of the things they do is they do a virtual wine tasting. And what they do with that, Anka, is that all you as the nonprofit have to do is provide them with a list of names and addresses, and they literally send these sample bottles, like a package of 4 or 5, that goes, and you can add documentation to it. So you could add a nice note from your organization, whatever.
Wow, and that's fantastic.
My issue with some of these additional things that we're doing, and I think it's because folks are trying to replace that gathering experience. And I think you draw more attention to the fact you're not gathering by doing that. That's my big fear. But I think you also increase your risk, right? Like I said earlier, nobody's gotten a cold meal. Nobody's gotten the wrong entree selection. Nobody's stood in line for their glass of wine in our virtual world. And so why would you recreate that? That's my issue. So
no, I think you're against the principle, like you mentioned, of taking this in-person gala and putting it in a virtual format and trying to do it exactly what you used to do at the in-person, which we know it just doesn't work. So the principle in itself is broken. So how do we change it to adapt it to what this is now?
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. And, you know, so I look at it and I say, you know, you basically have 3 primary costs in doing these virtual events. And, you know, obviously your auctioneer, if the person is truly a benefit auction specialist or does a lot of benefits and is a great counsel for you. Okay. If you just had the bid caller, maybe my friends in the National Association would shoot me for this, but if you were nothing more than a bid caller, showing up and, you know, reading off the bids, I don't know what your role is in the virtual today.
Yeah.
But if you were really a consultant to the group and helping them understand the auction methodology and the fundraising portion of their event, then I think you're more crucial than ever. The second,
and maybe having like that entertainment, side of it too. It's so important, and I couldn't agree more with what you just said. If you're just gonna go there to try to chant the same old chant, is that how you say chant?
Yeah.
Then maybe find yourself something else to do, because this is not the place for it.
Yeah, and then the second thing is your AV, right? Your audio visual, and making sure that all the work you're going to put into this program to showcase your organization and raise money, that is going to be easy for people to watch, and it's going to be incredibly good quality when they get it, right?
Yeah, and I like to say that, when it comes to the shows that we watch on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, like, people binge on those shows.
Yeah.
Nobody binges on Zoom meetings.
Right.
Not I.
No, you're exactly right. Nobody wants to watch a recording of the, board meetings from the last month, right? I mean, no, you're exactly right. And then the last component, which is a little segue into promoting our guest next week, I know it's a good friend of yours too, is the auction software. And So I think of those as really the three elements that, you want to have a good auctioneer or fundraising host, whatever you want to call them. You want to have terrific audio visual.
Yeah, technology is what's taken right now. I think there's even some numbers running around that if you were spending before about, I don't know, 30%, 40%, on probably even that's a little high on audiovisual, because most of the budget was going to food and beverage and venue. Right. Now, most likely, probably 60 to 70% is going to technology. It depends, I guess, in the context of what type of event we're talking about, right? Like if this is a conference, most likely that's true. If this is a fundraising event, we're going to have to also take in considerations, your MCs, your benefit auctioneer, the platform, and the packages that you're going to, have to spend in order to net on. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's incredibly powerful. I ask every guest this, and I want to hear your response. I probably already understand most of it. And this would be my last question.
Can I add one thing before we go to the last question? I know we're kind of running out of time here. I just wanted to mention the one question that I get a lot. People feel the pressure of having a green screen when it comes to the location, because we were talking about the call elements, right? And I know you have a green screen and it does magic for you because you know how to use it. You also have good lighting. But one of the things that I see people do where they go on Amazon, get a green screen fabric. Some of it is better than others. So you're going to have to do a little bit of research besides just buying some, fabric that you find on Amazon. But if without good lighting, that is not going to benefit you. It's going to be most likely something that is going to work against you. Right. I can't tell you how many videos and Zoom meetings I've been part of where people just get lost in their green screen, and you see half of the face and half of a hand.
Right?
StreamYard is great because if you don't have a green screen, like a little green screen that's well lit, it won't even let you use it. Like right now, you wouldn't be able to use the green screen function if you didn't have good lighting and you didn't have a green or blue screen, which one you have, right? So this is one thing that I wanted to add on to our discussion here, because we kind of like segued into other things, which are great things. But if you're going to pre-record at home, I would say simple backgrounds are still the best. Something that is still part of your environment, but it's not, messy and crowded. And who knows? It's like, again, somebody's kitchen with a lot of pots. If you're a cook, a chef, sure. If you're a presenter talking about, I don't know, financial things, probably not.
Right. Yeah.
So it matters. Location does matter, but do it well. Like, don't just throw it together because you heard it somewhere or someone saying it. And I would take a minimalistic location over any green screen whatsoever, and birds of paradise in the background,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I can't say enough. And you're right. When I first thought I needed a green screen, I ordered one. And then I was disappointed because I didn't have enough light, right? And next thing I know, I'm ordering lights, right? And so, you're.
But now you can use your green screen in the way it was intended to be used, and actually have a great image and presentation because of it,
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is I did a interview with someone yesterday for a testimonial, or Monday. That was they stood up in front of just a blank wall, because using StreamYard, I was able to put the overlays on it and everything else and make it look like, make it look professional, and
elevated that presentation. Yep.
And it was actually nice because the next one I did was in front of a some type of a cabinet with glass doors, and so I could see reflections and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of elements to it. The important part is, and that's the last thing I wanted to say about some of this cost stuff, is if you find the right producers, folks, they will work with you to help you fit your budget, right? It doesn't mean that you have to go into a big time studio where maybe your speakers won't be comfortable. I think it's crucial to connect yourself to the right person who will walk you through that and help you. And obviously she's on the air with me, but I think that, anybody anywhere in the United States can reach out, and around the world. You talked about, you were on the phone to Greece earlier today, can reach out to you, and you can guide them, make them into a client, and make sure that they can get the best project that they can get for their, at the best price. And what I always think about is, it's not price, it's value. Am I getting value? Right? And that's what, that's no different than I sent you someone the other day, or I just feel there's an incredible value working with you.
Thank you, Patrick. And you make a great point, because, take a conference, right? I know how much time I would be spending for a conference or a summit or any of that nature. But I was just talking with someone, a contact of mine, that brought over a nonprofit. So they're like, well, they're really tight on money. I looked at their production last year. You could tell they're tight on money. But I'm available that day. And I was like, you know what? I will work with whatever budget they have, unless that budget is zero. And at that point, hey, I also volunteer for some nonprofits that I work with, because I have actually a closeness to them. And I'm either on the board, or I support them because I care about the work they do, and who knows what, right? But my advice, I will give it for free if that's all you can afford. And maybe next time we work together, we can actually, support each other, so that I bring my best over and I support you, so that you can raise the funds that you are hoping to raise. So there's having that initial conversation, I feel like, is the most important thing. And a lot of people, they're afraid to. They're like, well, if I'm going to have that conversation, I'm going to be sold onto. Nobody's going to sell you onto anything. Hey, it's still your decision.
Yeah. And you're really good at technical and technology and all that stuff, and you have that remarkable skill to sell too. But you're exactly right.
If I wanted to be rich, Patrick, I would have probably sold medical devices in the pandemic. Instead, I'm doing virtual events.
No, it's a fabulous skill that you have, and I just can't recommend Tree Fan Events enough, and especially
Thank you.
And your resources, right? You've got connections around the country that can help you. If the person does need a studio, you know who to call in that market. We can do it virtually through StreamYard. And it's not just fundraising events. I mean, you do a lot of things with conferences. People aren't able to travel today for their business meetings and stuff like that. I know recently you did a 2-day conference with all sorts for an association. I mean, it's fascinating. I encourage everybody out there, if you've got a need to live stream something, reach out to Anka and see if she can help you, because it'll be incredibly, incredibly powerful. So
I'm certainly looking forward to share some of the experiences and lessons learned from the conference that we've done just recently into a platform, because I feel like there's not a lot of conversations that are had about those type of lessons, because they're completely different than what we do in the virtual fundraising world. And I feel like sometimes I'm looking at all the virtual events that we've done in 2020, and I'm looking at them as like a piece of cake now. Because there's some challenges that you run into with conferences and working on multiple time zones, and even like the VPNs and the secure networks of many high-level professionals and professionals that work in some environments that you think it would be easy to put on a conference with, but it's so hard. There's so many different layers of challenges. So I am looking forward to support you, Patrick, with everything I can. You're always very dear to my heart. And I am so glad what 2020 brought to us, like this relationship, this working relationship where we have those conversations and we help each other. Because I learn as much as you've learned from me, and I learned just as much about fundraising and about being in your shoes on the other side. Although now you've kind of walked a lot in my shoes on this side of.
Well, when you're ready to start talking really fast, right? And
that would not be me unless I do it in Romanian. Unless I do it in Romanian, and then nobody will understand.
Well, there might be a market for that. Who knows? Hey, Anka, thanks so much for joining us today. And I just can't, I can't say enough positive things. I want to remind everybody, all you got to do is reach out to Anka at treefanevents.com. She's got fabulous, fabulous social media. Follow her on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of them. She's always got great things. I don't know how she does it, and is a super mom and super wife and everything that she does, but she does it, and she would be a great addition to your team. So
thank you,
Anka, thank you so much for joining me today.
For free, so yeah.
You're the best. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. And so that is episode 7 of Fundraising Business Talk. Can't be more excited than next week. We're going to have our good friend is going to be joining us from Octria. Lori Hockman is going to join us, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about what you're looking for in your benefit auction software. Benefit auction software is definitely different than what it used to be. I think originally people used to think of auction software for a benefit was really more about event planning software and making sure you had all the information on your guest and had them seated at the right table. And today, really, benefit auction software needs to focus on the auction elements. And Octria has done a great job with that. So I'm looking forward to visiting with Lori next week, and I think it'll be fantastic. I want to remind everybody that you can always catch all of our shows on our Vimeo channel at Fundraising Business Talk. That's vimeo.com/channels Fundraising Business Talk, and you can watch them all. Remind you once again, we're using StreamYard. They are fantastic, and it is incredibly valuable. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, have a great, great day. Thank you.